Hello, everyone, and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. So, I'm back for the penultimate episode of this Have Your Say series.
Don't worry, it's almost over.
And this video is for Drag Race UK Season 7, Episode 9. So today we're going to be recapping the episode, going through the results of the Have Your Say poll, and we'll be talking about a little bit of light tea to do with Mhi'ya Iman Le'Paige apparently getting in a fist fight, and a social media post about the Drag Race UK Season 7 queens that went viral. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Also, just before we start, some of you may have seen this already because I posted about it on YouTube, but I recently interviewed Phoenix from Season 3 and All Stars 10, and it was a really interesting interview. It was so lovely speaking to a legend of drag like that, and here's a quick snippet of some of the drama that we talked about.
I'll be just very, very honest. I really knew I was going to go home. You could have seen the look on RuPaul's face. Oh my God. She looked at me like if looks could kill, I would not be here right now. I was definitely frustrated. And there is definitely a moment that I get very irritated. You know, there was one of the storyline producers, she really wanted me to explode. They really tried to get that out of me. And I remember being like, I'm not going to give you guys the television moment that you want. The Ice Spice stuff afterwards was kind of crazy. So I just threw out some shade. This is such a take on how toxic, not all the fandom, but how toxic and nasty the fandom can be. I mean, I'll be honest, when I had those, I regretted going on All Stars altogether.
So if you want to know the full tea, go and check out the full interview, and I'll leave a link to that in the description. Okay, so let's start by recapping the episode. So we find out that this week is the Roast Challenge. I know I always say I hate certain challenges. I actually really like the Roast Challenge. I didn't really like this one, which we'll get onto later. But I usually love the Roast Challenge. I love a good roast, whether it's beef, chicken, pork. I know, what an original joke. But anyway, I do actually love a comedy roast. I love watching they do the Comedy Central roasts and the roasts in general. I always think they're quite funny, and it's just like a nice way. It's kind of like the reading challenge, but an extended version. And we have had some amazing roast performances in the past on Drag Race, so I always look forward to that. Bones and Katrin get to do the lineup because Bones was the winner last week and Katrin survived the lip sync. And to be honest, they did it quite fairly, so there was no drama like there usually is about who's where in the lineup, and most of the queens said it doesn't really matter where you're placed, which I agree with. So yeah, let's just move straight on into the actual roast performances because that's the main meat, if you will, roast meat.
Where are the jokes?
So let's get into the performances, and I'll go in order in which they appeared. Oh, and the eliminated queens have come back and they're sitting in the audience for the roast. Okay, so we'll start off with Bones. I thought Bones was actually pretty funny. In general, the level of this roast was not very good, unfortunately. This was one of my least favorite roasts there's been on Drag Race. It was just not very good in general. So I think Bones was definitely the best by far of everyone, but she was still kind of mid-level, I would say. But she did make a couple of funny jokes. She brought back the Liam Gallagher from Snatch Game, which I guess was a nice little throwback. But she did have some actual good jokes, and she did a lot better than what I thought. So I would definitely give her, for this roast, a yay. In terms of the Have Your Say poll, it looks like you agreed because it was 74.1% for yay, 23.8% for just okay. So almost a quarter of you said just okay. I guess it wasn't the funniest performance we've had compared to previous roasts, but in this roast, she definitely was the best. And then it was 2.1 for nay. After that, we had Elle Vosk. I thought, as some of the judges said, I think it was Alan maybe that said it, I thought Elle was funny, but her jokes were just really quite tame and timid, and kind of some of them they were funny, but they reminded me of the jokes that you would tell at school or something like that. Like, I feel like she could have really gone in a bit harder, which I've said many times before.
You're a slut. I know.
But I do think that she could have really pushed it a bit more. They were funny, but it was just very safe. But she probably was the second best in this particular roast, which is not saying that much. So I'll take a laugh where I can get it. So I will give her a yay, but it's a yay / just okay. In the Have Your Say poll, I think you agreed because you said 51.5% for just okay, but then 42.3 for yay. So it's not that far off a 50-50 split, and then 6.3 for nay. After that, we had Select's Addiction. I thought Selexa had a good attitude and she came up with like the bobbling boobies. So I quite enjoyed that part of it. I don't know what that says about me, but I quite liked that part of it. And I thought the bit, for example, where she messed up her line and then she kind of just was like, hi. She did quite well to bring the audience back and make her messing up funny. Some of her jokes were quite good, but there just weren't enough of them. So I think overall, I probably would give it a just okay, but it would be a just okay towards a yay. In the Have Your Say poll, it looks like you kind of agree because you said 49.4% for just okay, so pretty much half. 33.9% for yay, which is basically a third. I know, I'm doing really well here. Halves, thirds, quarters. I basically am a mathematician.
Girl, please. No.
And then she got 16.7% for nay. Penultimately, we had Tayris Mongardi. I think that Tayris should get some props for the fact that she didn't really rely on cue cards, because that is difficult to do. But I don't think the jokes that she had were funny enough. She had a couple that were funny, but not that great. I did appreciate the fact that when she said a joke that didn't really land, I liked that she was like, oh, come on, give me a bit of a chuckle, because, I mean, I'm very much used to saying that all the time because none of my jokes land.
That is correct.
So I quite liked the part that she was at least acknowledging it and she made it sort of funny, but the jokes just like weren't that great in general. So I think I'd have to give her probably either a just okay, maybe even going into a nay, because I didn't really laugh. And in the Have Your Say poll, it was quite split in a way, but just okay did come out on top with 46.9%. So not that far off half. But then nay got 39.7%, so almost equal. And then only 13.4 for yay. And then finally, we had Katrin Feelings. Now, this one was just really painful. I mean, I'm sorry to say I love Katrin. I think she's so funny usually, but I had such high expectations because also she was last. She was setting the bar. She's the comedy queen. She was really excited for it. And it was just really not good. I don't think I laughed really once. One thing I was going to mention is, though, that popped into my mind, I wonder if, because there was a theme to this roast, which Drag Race has started doing that in more recent years, where they'll just give the roast a random theme. And this one was kind of like wellness, meditation, that sort of thing. And then Katrin did her set where she did this whole thing where she was giving different queens and assigning them what crystal they would be, what gemstones, and it just did not work. It was really niche and just not funny. But I do wonder if she was kind of reading too much into the prompt of it being like wellness and meditation. If it had just been a straight roast, and I don't mean straight like heterosexual, because I would have to be there for that to be the case. I just mean like a straight up roast, no theme, just a roast. I wonder if she wouldn't have gone down that route and it would have been funnier. And she also brought out the Bonnie Tyler from Snatch Game. It really didn't work. So unfortunately, although I love Katrin Feelings, I caught no feelings for this roast, so it will have to be a nay. And I think you agree, although I failed my PhD in mathematics, you got 88.7% for nay, so I'm guessing you felt pretty strongly about that. 11.3% for just okay, and then I don't think she got any votes for yay. And moving on to the slay for this week, which is the best roast performance. And you voted Bones with 68.6%, Elle Vosk with 18%, Select's Addiction 9.2%, and then Tayris 4.2%. And I definitely agree. Bones was by far the funniest, although it was not that good in general in terms of the general roast. I think she was like the least bad, but she had a couple of jokes that at least made me laugh, so she definitely gets the slay. Okay, so let's move on to the runway for this week, and the category was English Country Garden Realness. And as someone who grew up in England, in the countryside, I feel like I am best placed to judge this runway. So first up, we had Bones. I liked this outfit. It definitely, to me, was giving a little bit more like algae or kind of seaweed, like from the sea, that kind of thing. But I can see maybe close up, it did look more like moss or something like that. So I can sort of see it's a little bit country garden-ish. It wouldn't have been my first thought if I looked at this outfit to guess what the category was, but I did like it, so I will give it a yay. In the Have Your Say poll, it looks like you agreed, but maybe not sort of 100%, but it was 74.1% for yay, but then about a quarter, 24.7% said just okay, and then 1.3 for nay. Next up, we had Elle Vosk. Again, I feel like this is sort of country themed, although it's more just like flowers, but I guess at least it's somewhat on theme. I'm not sure many of the queens really hit the theme this week, but we'll let that one slide. But I really enjoyed this as a look itself. I really enjoyed it. It's very editorial. They were saying, all of the different references. Of course, I know all of the references. I just won't confuse you by mentioning all of them because you wouldn't know, whereas I would because I have how many PhDs in fashion?
0.
I really liked the look though. It's very clean. She looked really pretty. I liked the colors. You can definitely obviously see the theme of what it is. Very good. The makeup was lovely. So I would give this a yay. In the Have Your Say poll, you gave 68.2% for yay, which was the majority, but still not sort of that much. Maybe because it was, I guess, maybe a slightly safe type look. Then it was 27.6% for just okay, so that's over a quarter, and then 4.2 for nay. After that, we had Select's Addiction. This was such a beautiful look. She definitely hit the theme, first of all, that this is, you can tell it's garden, flowers, you can see the fact that she's got that massive train, the huge flower in her hand. It was just really beautiful, but it also was actually giving runway, not just like a standard look. It was giving something a little bit dramatic, a little bit over the top, and we know Selecta often serves a good look. And I would definitely love to sniff her rose any day, so I would definitely give this a yay. And in the Have Your Say poll, looks like you really liked this too. 88.7% of you said yay, 8.4 for just okay, and then 2.9 for nay. Then, penultimately, and yes, that is my favorite word this video, we have Teiris Mongardi. I agree with the judges that this is a very simple look, even if it is a reference to Beyonce. I'm not sure it really reads English Country Garden. Like, it's nice, but I would never have thought that's the theme. I don't know if she just had this outfit already and she's thought, oh, this will match the theme. It's a pretty look. I mean, it's very simple. It just doesn't match the theme at all. Though out of everyone, I would say, be the least matching the theme. So although she does look pretty, I probably would have to give it either a just okay, maybe even a nay, not because it's a bad look, but just because it has nothing to do with the theme, I think. In the Have Your Say poll, it looks like you were kind of in agreement because it was 45.6% for nay, so the biggest proportion of you did say nay, but then not that far behind was just okay with 44.4%, so almost like a 50-50 sort of split, and then 10% of you said yay. And then finally, we had Katrin Feelings. I thought for Katrin, this is actually quite a kind of unusual, editorial, slightly unusual style that she would not normally do. So I appreciated that she was doing something different. It wasn't just kind of like campy like she's done before. Nothing wrong with camp. We all love a bit of camp. But I do agree that maybe it doesn't 100% read English Country Garden. Like, I don't know if she's a flower or is she, I don't quite know what she is. I think it's actually kind of a cool look, but again, it doesn't really match the theme. So again, it probably would have to be a just okay or a nay, maybe more in the just okay category because it's at least kind of green and vaguely plant or garden-like. It looks like you did not agree though, because in the Have Your Say poll, you voted nay 46.4%, which was by far the biggest portion. Then it was 36.4% for just okay, but then 17.2% for yay, which is actually a decent portion. I then asked you to vote for the slay, as in the best runway, and you voted 49.4% for Select's Addiction, Bones with 26.8%, not that far behind Elle Vosk with 20.5%, and then Katrin Feelings with 2.1%. I definitely would give the slay to Selexa. I think it was vaguely on theme, but it was just a very beautiful, cool look. As I said, I don't think that many of the queens matched the actual category this week, but hers was definitely, I think, the most impressive look of all of them. So we find out that the winner of this episode is Bones. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, do you agree with the winner? You said 72.4% for yes and 27.6% for no. So of that, around just over a quarter of you that did vote no, I said, who do you think should have won instead? And you said Elle Vosk 59.1%, Select's Addiction 25.8%, and then Teiris was third with 12.1%. So moving on to the flip side, which is the bottom two, and we find out that is Catherine Feelings, and Taurus Mongardi. By the way, I would just like to call out my psychic abilities. Last week, I literally said, I wonder if we're going to get a Taurus and Catherine lip sync this week. Whole Taurus thing, and Taurus is still in the competition. Maybe next week we're going to get a Taurus versus Catherine lip sync. So yes, I am psychic. Or psycho, I'll let you choose. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, do you agree with the bottom two? And almost 3/4 of you, 73.6% said yes, but around a quarter, 26.4% of you said no. So of that around a quarter of you that did say no, I said, who do you think the bottom two should have been? And you voted Catherine Feelings with 90.5%. And then it was kind of close. Select's Addiction actually came in second with 44.4%. And then El Vosk was not that far behind with 42.9%. So it looks like you're saying that you thought it should have been Catherine and Selexa or Catherine and Elle rather than Catherine and Taurus. So Taurus and Catherine lip synced to the song Mama Knows Best by Jessie J. And Catherine Feelings is announced as the winner, which means, unfortunately, Taurus Mongardi is told to sashay away. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, who do you think won this lip sync in your opinion? It was pretty close, but you did vote Taurus Mongardi 53.1%, and then Catherine Feelings got 46.9%. I don't think this was the best lip sync in general, because whoever's picking these songs for the lip syncs, I think needs to be fired, because a lot of them have been really bad this season. But I will say, I thought Taurus should have stayed. I think she did do a better job in the lip sync. Her roast was better than Catherine's, and Catherine was in the bottom last week. So this was one of the lip sync results that I was genuinely gagged by, because I really thought it was Catherine's time, and I think Catherine thought it was her time as well. So yeah, I personally would have kept Taurus because I think she deserved it more. So moving on to the last two questions, I said, which queen do you think will win the season? And you voted Bones with 76.2%, so it's now changed to Bones getting the majority. Then it was Elle Vosk, but she only got 22.2%, and Select's Addiction got 0.8%. And then on the flip side of that, I said, which queen do you want to win the season? And again, Bones came out on top by a decent margin with 44.8%. Then it was Select's Addiction with 25.1%, and Elle Vosk was not that far behind with 24.3%, and Catherine Feelings only got 5.9%. So it is interesting now that Bones has got another win. It's flipped again, and for a long time it was Elle coming out on top, but now it looks like most of you think that Bones will win, and you also want her to win compared to Elle. Okay, so moving on to the comments for this week, starting with my Patreon comments. I think my Patreon Deb summed it up very well and literally just said, meh. And I think that is kind of goes where a lot of people were saying. This was a very meh episode, and it was just not very good in general. So yeah. And my Patreon Patty said, it was nice to see that Bones can be funny too. Bones and Selexa delivered again on the runway. Catherine was a disappointment. Thought she would be funny, but it was just awkward, as was Taurus. It was to be expected that both would be in the bottom two, as I said, as so many have predicted, but overall the episode was just boring. And this idea of that being boring is kind of a bit of a recurring theme. So for example, someone moving on to the Have Your Say poll comments, someone said, this is hands down the weakest roast in the history of the entire franchise. It was just hard to watch. And I do agree. I don't want to be too mean though. And actually, Chai T Grande did make a good point about this in general. And Chai T made a good point when she tweeted saying, it might not be your favorite season, but can we please remember that my 11 sisters and I put everything we had into this, mentally, physically, financially, personally. Yes, it's a TV show to be consumed and to entertain, so you're allowed to have an opinion, but can we also consider that we're people behind the screen, all of whom had dreams of being on the show? We each gave it everything we had. It was so much harder than you could ever have imagined. So keep that in mind when you're sitting typing out some throwaway comment. So I would just like to point out that, yeah, Chai makes a very good point that although we can have opinions and say this season was not very good, just remember that it's not okay to be hateful. You can have an opinion, but I have seen some comments that were kind of just going a bit too harsh and too mean, because these are queens that do put a lot of effort into doing this. And I don't think it's really the queen's fault. I think this season it just kind of missed the mark because I think the casting and the group just didn't gel together. I think that's more what it was. And sometimes some seasons just don't hit and other seasons do, but just remember to not be hateful because that's not okay. There were also quite a lot of comments talking about the elimination this week, basically saying they didn't think that Tayris deserved to be eliminated. Someone said, I love Katrin, but objectively, she did the worst this week. Tayris didn't deserve to be bottom 2, let alone eliminated. Judging this season has been very disappointing. And then also there were quite a few comments from people saying things like, Bones and Elle will most likely be the top 2 of the season, which I definitely agree with. One of these queens will win just by how the storylines have been this season. And I also think it's just kind of to do with the badges, the amount of wins. I personally predict that Bones will win, and I think the top 2 will be Bones and Elle, just based on what we've seen. But to me, at this point, I think Bones has it in the bag. But let me know your predictions for who you think the top 2 are going to be, and then who do you think's actually going to win. Also, I'd just like to say thank you so much for all the lovely comments that I've had on the Have Your Say poll. I really do enjoy reading them, and some of them are just so specific, but also really lovely to read. Like, it's actually nice that people are watching the videos and enjoying them and getting something out of them. So thank you honestly so much. I really, really appreciate all the lovely comments. Okay, and finally, we're going to move on to a little bit of light tea, unrelated to Drag Race UK, which involves season 16 queen Mhi'ya Iman Le'Paige, who apparently got into a fist fight. A few days ago, on the 21st of November, Mhi'ya posted a video on Twitter which appeared to show her having a fist fight with another person.
What we doing? You better walk. What we doing? What we doing? You better walk.
Oh.
What we doing? What we doing?
I know that lip, but
What we doing? Not mine. She ain't touched the lip. Walk. What we doing?
Oh, wait, don't fall now.
What we doing?
See, I want to hit you for
All right.
I want to hit you for
When Mhi'ya first posted this clip, there seemed to be some confusion as to whether this was a real fist fight and what the background of it was, with some people worrying that perhaps Mhi'ya had been attacked and that she was defending herself. However, the caption on the video said Drag Baddies, which is a series of videos that Mhi'ya has posted before where she split screens herself with another queen and they pretend to throw punches at each other. And for example, she's done this in the past with queens such as Saphira Crystal and Joella. So because of this, most people assumed that this fist fight was just a joke. Later that day, Mhi'ya posted and said he wanted the drag baddie experience in person, Dollhouse LMAO. Then the next day, Mhi'ya changed her profile to be a screenshot from the fight. In the comments on the original video, a lot of people commented asking what happened, but also joking about it. For example, Geneva Carr said, "Damn, the foreplay is crazy and then you took him home." Morphine Love Dion also commented saying, "Sister," to which Mhi'ya replied saying, "The Miami had to come out for a second, sister." There also seemed to be confirmation that this was indeed just a joke and was not a real fight, because someone commented saying they wanted to know what the backstory was, and Mhi'ya replied saying, "We was playing." I was also curious who the person tagged in the video was called Winston. When I googled it, it came up with what looks like Mhi'ya's official Facebook page, and there were also a few other accounts that came up with this name with Mhi'ya's photo, so I'm assuming that this might be Mhi'ya's legal name, although this is just a guess. Also, I noticed there were a lot of comments where people were saying that Mhi'ya was a man or making jokes about Mhi'ya being trans, and Mhi'ya replied to these people saying she is a man and is not trans. Just to explain for those of you who may not know, a while back in early October 2025, Mhi'ya tweeted a photo of herself with the caption, "Can I be trans today?" And presumably this was because the colours of her outfit were similar to the colours of the trans flag. A lot of people assumed that Mhi'ya was officially coming out as trans as a result of this post, and they started congratulating her, although some people said she was probably joking. But then, the tabloid news outlet, the US Sun, posted an article saying that Mhi'ya had officially come out as trans, so even more people then started to believe it was real. However, the day after the article came out, Mhi'ya tweeted a screenshot of the article and said, "Did I come out as trans? I never said that, LMAO." So this is why people were joking about her being trans in the comments on the fist fight video, and I just thought that I would explain that for any of you who may not have known the backstory. And finally, moving on to a kind of interesting thing that happened this week was that Celexa Diction from Drag Race UK made a post on Twitter that went kind of viral. She posted old drag photos of the 4 finalists and said, "The fact that one of these are going to win Drag Race UK, unbelievable." So many people commented on this post saying how different the queens looked in their early drag days, particularly Katrin Feelings. Katrin even changed her Twitter profile photo to be that old photo of her. This post by Celexa then went semi-viral and got a lot of comments and responses, and then a well-known UK drag queen named Why She Black reposted Celexa's post and said, "Can we get a full season of bastard photos for UK7 please? I'm too lazy to look, but I know someone will do it." A Twitter user named It's Echo Envy then replied to Why She Black with a montage of all of the UK7 queens with the earliest drag photos they could find, and the photos are in order in which the queens were eliminated from the season. And I just thought it was really interesting to see how much the queens have changed their drag styles since they started, and some of the queens were even kind of hard to recognize. Because this Twitter user couldn't find any early photos of Nyan Bella, they just used a photo from Drag Race, but Nyan Bella commented on the post and posted a photo and also a video of the first makeup look she ever did. And I just thought it was really interesting to see how much the queens have changed over the years, but it was also quite funny because the queens were posting these really old drag photos and making fun of themselves. So if you want a good laugh, go and check out some of the replies on this Twitter thread because they were really funny. So there you go, there was the penultimate Have Your Say video for Drag Race UK, and this was for episode 9. Let me know in the comments who you think is going to win the season, and has your opinion changed from the start of the season as to who you thought was going to win? If you want to get your comments featured in my Have Your Say videos, get early access to my videos, as well as the extended uncut versions of my interviews, like for example my interview that just came out with Phoenix, you can find the full uncut version on my Patreon, please go and check it out and support me on Patreon. It's a cheap way to support the channel and I'd really appreciate it. And I'd just like to say thank you so much to all of my amazing Patreon members. Every month you blow me away with your support and I just love speaking to you in the Patreon exclusive chat. Your support honestly makes a humongous difference to this channel, so honestly thank you so much. Please make sure you like and comment on this video to help the algorithm boost it to more people, and please make sure you smash that subscribe button and please help me get to my goal of 140k subscribers by the end of the year. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll join me again for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. Thank you so much. Bye.